All right, welcome to the Club Innovators podcast here with Capstone Hospitality. In studio with me, I have Brian Friedrich, CEO of Capstone Hospitality, myself, Adam Murkison, Director of Training with Capstone. With us, we have two industry-leading membership sales experts, Melissa Hansen and Rick Coffey. Melissa Hansen is located in Naples, Florida. She's a private club membership and marketing educator that provides resources to industry professionals who are striving to get creative and think outside of the box. With over 10 years of industry experience, Melissa loves sharing her knowledge and information gained. Melissa provides services including membership consulting services, live group classes, master classes. You can visit melissahansen.com to learn more, download resources, and connect with Melissa directly. Rick Coffey, C-O-F-F-E-Y. Rick is a certified membership professional, CMP, who has established himself as one of the top sales performers and thought leaders in the private club industry. In 2019, Rick joined the Golf Channel as National Sales Manager of the Private Club Division. Based here in Jacksonville, Florida, he is dedicated to growing the private business, and for the Popular Network, Rick currently leads the Private Club Division for NBC Sports. Melissa and Rick, thank you for being here. Welcome to the podcast. Excited to learn more about your take, your experience, and let's go.
That was quite the intro. I'm glad he's back. You know, that was much, much better in mine. So
if I
welcome,
missed
guys.
Anything, yeah. Please jump in there.
He also was the PCMA. Weren't you the PCMA national president
for a very short moment?
2014, yes, I think it was.
Yes.
So needless to say, two experts in the industry when it comes to membership sales. So we're excited to have you all here and excited to talk about our topic, which is membership sales here.
Super here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. So what I want to talk about is we've done a national campaign, a secret shop campaign, where basically we are secret shopping private clubs. And we've done this for a long time. We've done this, we've been really kind of in business since 2009, but really since 2013 is when we kind of took off and started expanding throughout the nation. So call it 10 years. And I've seen this throughout my career, secret shopping for when we go in and we partner with a client. We secret shop the market. We kind of find out where our strengths and weaknesses are. We create a strategic plan, and then we base our entire campaign off of that strategic plan. So I have seen this type of performance basically for the past 10 years, but I've never actually tracked it in a scientific way, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've been really excited to do this. And my whole goal with this is just to, show where we can get better, right? And be objective about it, and just kind of open the lines of communication of, hey, I believe there is a better way to approach membership sales. I believe we can put a more focused effort into this, and there's lots of tools. There's lots of resources out there for membership sales directors to take advantage of. So I wanted to go over these numbers with y'all and get your take on them and get your feedback and also get what you see in the industry. We also have some tips and some tools that we want to share. We also want to go over some of those tips with you guys because you are a wealth of knowledge. So without further ado, let's jump into them. Adam, you want to take us through the list?
Yeah, absolutely happy to. So what we've done simultaneously, as Brian was saying, is comparatively looked at our sales directors nationwide, our process, and those percentages versus, a sample nationwide of clubs that we have in front of us. So the one that sticks out most to me, the most kind of incredible one in a negative way is, of these clubs sampled, 25% of the clubs never reach back out once we sent an inquiry in.
Before we go into that, let's kind of define what we've done here. So this sample study is based off of 200 private clubs, and we secret shop them at random throughout the entire country, okay? And the criteria was that we needed to pull from all different states. The initiation fees range from $2,500 up to $120,000. And what we did when we secret shopped, which is the golden standard, right? You can agree with that. You can agree with that. I'm sure, Melissa, you can agree with that, is when you get an online inquiry, typically that's a good lead, right?
Absolutely.
That you want to kind of follow up with and get on. So that's what we did. We submitted an online inquiry to these clubs. So after we did that, there were 25% of the 200, so 50 clubs that didn't even respond at all. That's shocking.
To me, that's that's beyond inexcusable.
Right.
So Rick and Melissa, if you have any insight into that, what you have seen, your experience, and how as a membership sales director you could get an online inquiry, have somebody that's taking time out of their day to reach out to you, and then just kind of whiff on it, decide not to reach out and at least have a conversation. Please take it away, and love to hear more.
Yeah, Rick, what's your take on these numbers? When you first saw them, what was your thought? Is it you've worked with a lot of membership directors, you've worked with a lot of different clubs. Does it go in line with what you've seen? I mean, what's your first take?
Unfortunately, I wasn't shocked by it at all. But what you're saying there is 1 out of every 4 of those clubs didn't reach back out to what we would consider definitely a warm lead. If somebody is willing to take the time to go onto a website, put in your personal information, and reach out, I mean, that is the natural qualifier there. So it is shocking, but I have seen sales numbers throughout the last few years that this isn't just common to private clubs. Just in general in sales, oftentimes somebody will inquire about information and a staggering amount will not respond at all.
Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think the actual root cause? Is it just lack of organization? Is it that they don't have the time to get to them, or that they're just not real salespeople? What are your thoughts?
I do think organization is probably the root of it, but I mean, Melissa has been in this for such a long time, and so have I. It is hard for my head to grasp on why it is. That person has a membership director title, which ultimately should be something where you are going to be a salesperson to reach out. So I can't really tell, but I do know organization is a very difficult piece in the private club space today, and Melissa can probably attest to that.
Yeah, I think that's right? Because now we've developed out a CRM system that is embedded into websites where it automatically gets put into our system. Our salesperson gets a text message notification. It automatically goes onto a meeting tool link. Like, there's all these resources and tools. And my gut kind of tells me that maybe that those clubs just don't have that. Maybe it's a manual thing where it's getting spit into an email. And we all know how emails are. Like, I could literally pull up my phone and this terrifies people that are organized, but I have 113,198 emails.
It also terrifies people that are waiting for a response.
Yeah, exactly. So, things can get lost. So that's kind of my gut. I don't think these people have malintent, right? Like, they're not like, oh, I'm just not going to respond to this person. That just gets lost in the shuffle. Melissa, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, down here, at least we've seen such an influx of the wait time on Waitlists. So I would be interested in seeing these statistics from like 3 years ago. If you had them, that would be really cool to compare, because what we're seeing is that membership directors, when they are on this wait list, I mean, some of these wait lists, I was just with the group of the membership directors of Southwest Florida this week, and their wait lists are over 10 years.
Wow.
So as a salesperson, all of a sudden that need to respond to that prospective member might not be such a, urgency.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing we did do on this list is we asked, if you're at a wait list, and of this sample size, only 12.67% are on a wait list. You're obviously in a hyper strong market. So that does make sense where, hey, I've got a 10-year stacked out wait list. Like, I'll get to this guy when I can get to him.
Which is not right. I mean, you think your wait list is that long, but nobody knows what's coming.
Sure.
And it's not a good reputation for the club if you're not getting back to these people. Yeah. I have literally had prospective members come in and they would say, we're looking at, 3 to 5 different clubs in the area, and we're here right now because you're the only one that got back to us.
Wow.
So I definitely see these statistics being true.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah. I also say, like, Rick, to your point, like the membership director title, I think things I've seen and we have seen, which I can only speak for us, but I think it's how you allocate your priorities. And I think as a membership director, right, versus a membership sales director, membership directors tend to get pulled into billing and member retention and hosting events and making sure that the membership is actually directed and happy. And
all important roles.
100%. Yeah. But the allocation of time and resources to actually sales, I think, gets really diminished.
Yeah.
So I think it's an organizational thing. I think it's a wait list. I think it's all these like multivariate things that just somehow add up to 25% never having been reached back out.
Right. And then another big, it kind of goes in line with that exact same stat, is like only 8% made an effort to follow up after the initial contact. Right. So like, okay, they reached out the first time, they sent, as we are seeing, 95% sent an email as their primary response. So they sent a blanket email, and most of them disclosed pricing. 86% disclosed pricing. We've kind of had back and forth internally on, do you want to disclose pricing? Don't you? I personally don't, but I understand why some people do. But only 8% of people followed up after that first thing. So they sent a list of, hey, here is literally all of our information, right? All of our pricing, but then never followed back up. That to me, again, is a big statistic that I have an issue with.
I agree with you, Brian. I know I watched your initial podcast on this, which is why I'm here today. I was so enthralled by it, but I know general managers are watching this today. And the scary part about it is, if you do not know, in the private club space specifically, it's somewhere between 7 and 8 touches, meaning an initial response, a phone call, a tour, an experience. It takes all of those, 7 or 8 of those, for somebody to typically join a private club. And so ultimately, first, what we're saying is, 25 didn't even feel like they needed to respond at all. But on top of that, after that, only 8% of salespeople chose to reach back out.
Yeah.
And so that's what's scary, I think, for the listeners to understand from this.
Yeah, no doubt. Melissa, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, you're obviously a very experienced and accomplished membership director. I know you're following back up. You're doing all these things. What is your process, and why do you think this is so challenging?
Well, I think it's so challenging definitely because I think in the role now that we wear so many different hats, and just depending on what size club that you are at, I know for me here at my club, I'm a department of 1. And so I'm handling...
And you're at a pretty big club, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely mid-size for sure, but I'm handling all the marketing and the communications and the social media. And, when it's season, I'm at every event. So I think that sometimes, we're just wearing too many hats.
Yeah.
But what I would recommend is, definitely having some sort of campaign in place where you're automatically, dripping to these people, at least on a monthly basis. And that's what I notice for me personally when I'm getting too busy, is that, I send out one campaign per month. And literally when I send one campaign, I at least have one person join.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
It's insane. Yeah. And then from that, I get a minimum of 45 people that responded that says, we haven't touched base in 6 months. What is the pricing now? How long is the wait list, or whatever it is? So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you really are wearing that many hats and you are too busy, just make sure that you have some sort of programming in place that kind of does it for you.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the systems, right? Our whole thing is like, we believe in a really good training up front, right? And making sure that you have the proper skills and tools to be successful. But then it's like, what are the systems? What are the structures, right? Put into place so that you can handle this, so that you can elevate your craft. And that is what we've spent so much time, literally over the course of 10 years, developing out these systems so that our salespeople have the absolute best tools possible to be able to maximize sales at these clubs. And it shows in our numbers, right? On average, our clubs typically see a 407% increase of initiation fees sold from the year prior of partnering. And again, I'd like to say that we have a magic potion, right? But really, like, you both are very successful. Like, what it takes, right? It's being organized, it's putting in the work, it's following up with people, it's putting people through an appropriate sales process, it's doing a lot of marketing and lead gens, it's managing those processes. And if you do that, it's creating member referral programs, realtor referral programs, all these things. It's a lot of work, but if you can be organized with it and structure it out appropriately and then collect the leads coming in, have all these funnels, organize those leads, and then put out a good process, you're going to be successful, right? It's not that hard, right? It takes a lot of hard work, but the process is not ultra complex. Would you guys agree with that?
No, not at all. And again, I want to give the people that it's not that complex.
I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh man, I whipped it.
I'm sorry. No. What I was trying to say is I want to give the people that are watching this, between Melissa and I, some nuggets on what can be done. And when I was selling memberships, I always wanted to make sure whatever that initial contact I reached out, whether it was email or phone, that I was giving them the next step in that. And I tried, if I was on the phone, which was my preferable first step to call somebody back, I wanted to confirm that they were going to do something next with me. Yeah, usually it's going to be the tour number 2. And I wanted to set that on both of our calendars before we got off the phone, just to keep this moving along. And I called those sticky situations. And after the tour, it might be, hey, come back with your wife or your spouse for dinner or a round of golf. Let's get that on the calendar, just so that there's always a next step that everybody's committed to. What you're talking about in these first 2 stats is just, that's not even in play. So
right. No, it's not. And I have a feeling that as we continue to shop all the clubs across the country, these percentages are probably going to hold pretty true, because they were very, very similar on the first 100 we shopped. Sure. And Melissa, you made a good point, right? Like, has these processes changed through COVID, right? And we've even seen it internally with some of our processes, like the sales cycle. Like, we track all data. The sales cycle from like when people first, like, it's like 8 touches. Through COVID, it was so much less. It was like 2 touches, right? People are just coming in and signing up. And so I think inherently that's going to lead to maybe some lackadaisical tendencies, thinking that, oh, this is just going to continue. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. People are walking in and signing up. But that's changed now, right? Like, we have all the stats that show that it is now going back to pre-pandemic levels when the amount of touch points, the process from lead inquiry to close, those are all moving back to like normalizing rates, right? Are you guys, in the industry, are you feeling that too? Does it feel like it's kind of shifted back to normal?
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if it's a 100% back to normal, but yeah. And what I was seeing during the pandemic, where people were making their membership decisions, even putting these big initiation fees down without even stepping foot on at the club, without playing the golf course. It was almost like a frenzy. And now we've really seen, this week alone, we're in our off season, and I have 4 couples that, need to play the course before they make the next step.
Of course.
So
yeah,
that's normal, right?
Yeah. I would never join a club without playing it first or seeing it. But we did see that. You're right. It was like, it blew my mind, because I think, like you said, there was this frenzy, and if you approached it appropriately, you were squeezing the market to get your price point up. You're approaching a wait list. So you were conveying this in the market, which created this kind of frenzy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Well, look, I know that we kind of, prior to this, went over some questions, tips, tools. Why don't we start diving into that? So I think we all agree that there is a problem in the industry with the membership sales process, right? And, I believe that all of this can be remedied. And I believe that the two of you feel very strongly in this way as well. Both of you have created businesses. You're in this industry specific for this, as we are. So what are some tips that you guys have, to help membership directors, to help boards out there that are listening, to help general managers elevate their membership sales process?
Melissa, you go?
Sure. That's my favorite.
Awesome. Yeah. Love it.
I think the biggest thing these days, because we're just completely bombarded with content and, being reached out to and communicated to from every different company and platform, the most important thing is personalization. So really kind of honing back into the private club world and, realizing, the reason that they're joining is for that connection, and really making that connection and a personalized experience from the time of the first inquiry. And so making that, walking them through from the initial inquiry all the way through the onboarding experience, really just making that personalized.
What are some ways you do that? So one of the things we do is we before a tour comes in, right? You've had conversations with them, you know what they like, right? You know what they're into. Hopefully you're preparing the tour specific for that, but we send out what we call POP, prospect on property. We include a picture of the prospects if we can find it, what they're into, where they're from, so that as we're making our way around the facility, the director of golf, the director of food and beverage, they're greeting them by name, right? And that to me has always, I love doing that because it shows them that wow, they're taking the time to make this a customized experience. And I felt like it's such an easy thing to do, but not a lot of people do it. So what are some specific tips that you do during your sales process and tour to personalize that experience?
So I love what you just said, and I think that's so important. We do that as well. I feel like with Google, we can find information all about the prospective members. And I think what you mentioned, it's the connection point. So say we can see this member graduated from such and such university. There's a potential that you are a staff member at your club that, has that connection that they can share with them as well. So I definitely think that's important. The photo is huge. But I just think from the initial inquiry, a little special touch I do a lot with is video in the email.
I love this. You were the first person I saw do this. I love this. Sorry to interrupt, but
no. So it's so personal from day one. They make a connection with you, and they really know that you are the face of the club. Many different platforms. I use BombBomb. But it's just awesome. I just pop on, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Melissa Hansen here, got your inquiry, can't wait to bring you in, tour you around, and then pop that video. They see your face, they hear your excitement, your tone of voice, and it's a vibe.
Yeah.
So I think that personalization is really key. And the other thing is that on the CRM system that I have, I'm able to see what pages of the website that they visited. And I really try and hone in on, okay, I received this inquiry, but I don't know anything about them yet. But I can see, for example, that they spent most of the time on the tennis page of our website. Great. So I'll make sure to put a header image in my email back of our ladies playing tennis.
Oh, so smart.
That they're interested in.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And that points back to the importance of a good CRM system, right? There's all these tools that show that you can see how many times they're opening an email, right? All of these things where you're just okay, and all of these things qualify your prospects and lead to, right, an ultra good customized sales process. And I love that video. I remember when I first saw you do that on LinkedIn, I was just I was blown away by it. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so simple, so smart, and immediately makes a connection with the prospect. So I feel like if you were to track the data on that, your response rates on video messages have got to be so much higher.
We have the data on it.
What is it?
The data on it is 96% of people, as soon as they open it, get a response.
Wow.
They respond right away.
That's incredible. And you use BombBomb is what it's called? Okay, yeah. Cool. It's just a video sharing platform or something?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear these processes, and it's just a thoughtful way to move through a sales process. Both Rick, you and Melissa, you have actionable ways that as the professional in the relationship, you are helping guide the process, right? And you're customizing it from the very, very beginning. Melissa with your emails, Rick, you wanting to get on a phone call initially. It's that's the only way to customize it and make it a personalized experience for the prospect.
Yeah.
And you guys are starting from the very beginning, and then, with the prospect on property and the tours and all of that is just, it's such a relationship that you can really help connect with somebody and showcase the club in a way that they most want to experience it.
Yeah. And you also said something when you're talking about the video, you're smiling, you have good energy. that was one thing I always really focused on doing when I was speaking with a prospective member, whether it was on the phone or like my first face-to-face interaction. I would literally smile through the phone because I'm like, people can hear that, right? If I'm sitting here like this, or if I'm sitting here like this, right? There's a difference between those two tones, and people can feel that, right? People want to feel the vibe. Like they are literally, this is a lifestyle enhancement product, right? And if you have low energy, you're not bringing that vibe to the table in the sales process from the get-go, your close rates are going to be lower. They just are. And so that's so great to hear that that is being done in the industry. So, Rick, I know you came up with one of your most viral moments of all time. What was it? What was it called again?
Well, I put together a 30 membership sales series back in 2018, where in August, every day of the month, I went through a different specific membership sales tip, and I gave an image that goes along with it, and I told them sort of the what, why, and the how to execute that.
Yeah.
When I was able to see the stats, it was about 250,000 industry professionals had viewed it, and I still talk about it today and everything, but. Yeah, I mean, the CRM, going back to a couple of things, I do want to touch on the sales process does get a little bit muddy if you give out the pricing early on, and I know you talked about that.
Yep.
And I even think Melissa and I differ a little bit on this, but it was very difficult for me to give out the pricing just because I wanted to control the next steps and the narrative that was going to be, of my club.
That's how I always was.
And when
too.
you give it out that early, it's sort of like taking away your importance in the sales process. So I think you mentioned how many gave out the pricing, 86%.
Yeah, 86%.
And I actually think it's like counterproductive. I don't actually think it's helpful for the person. I think they're just looking at this number comparative to nothing.
There you go.
Right? Like there's nothing to compare it to. There's no experience. So yeah, I think it muddles it, and it's actually not that helpful.
Yeah, there's different thoughts on this. I mean, we even have some people internal, and we preach really that message of like, hey, get them on the phone, learn about them, highlight the club, and then once you've taken them through the process, then you disclose pricing. We have people internally that like to disclose pricing initially.
They're still
feel like
successful.
and they're still successful. So different, that's where you can have slightly different approaches and still be successful, but I'm in your camp on that one.
Going back to that membership sales series that I did, coming back, if there's membership directors listening to this, I'm just hoping that you don't, everybody thinks we're getting on them. My number 30 tip in that series was don't take it personally. And I think a membership director puts so much of their heart into this job. They love their club. They know exactly what members feel day in and day out. But I don't know if you guys know this, the best sales directors in America, they close about 16% of the prospects that come through.
You want to know Capstone's?
I would love to.
58%.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Still a lot of no's.
Still
lots of no's.
Yeah. And so I do think over time, I mean, membership directors are hopefully in their position for year after year. That's a lot of no's where you're like, man, I gave them everything I got in that, and they still said no. So that could be a root cause to that.
They're a little afraid of hearing no.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's legit. That is one of the hard parts of being a salesperson is hearing constant no's. I remember I would sometimes take it personally. I'd be like, man, what did I do wrong? But then you realize that it's nothing you did. Well, maybe it is in some points, but most of the time maybe it just wasn't the right fit. Maybe it wasn't the right time, whatever it is. Yeah. Very cool. So what else do we have? I know we've spoken in the past, and we've got all sorts of golden nuggets. Do we have those questions teed up, Melissa, Kyle? I do.
We all have them. Rick, you've got some in front of you as well.
Okay, perfect.
A few moments later.
All right, we are back here with, again, Melissa Hansen and Rick Coffey, Brian Friedrichs, Adam. We are looking at some questions that we have found over the course of all of our careers in the membership sales space that we have found important and wanted to kind of bring to light and have a conversation about. So, Melissa, we were just talking a little bit more about some personal experience you have and some unique case studies. Would you like to share a little bit more about that and maybe an upcoming talk you were discussing?
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of saw a shift a couple of years ago where a lot of the new members that had just joined the club weren't really receiving a full onboarding experience. And then there was like a lack within their first 90 days of joining where they weren't really connecting with the club and getting that experience that they had hoped for. And so what we saw with that is that in the beginning, we were offering big group orientations, and we would offer them specific date at a specific time. And we saw that so many of the members, they were just at different places in their lives. They were busy. Some people were working. Some people were retired. That time didn't work for them. And we started to implement the new member orientation virtually. And we saw an increase from 30% of the new members attending an orientation to over a 90% of members attending some sort of orientation. And so we saw from the attendees that did attend that their onboarding experience was just so much more positive. And how we did that was we started to implement a new member microsite. And so this was a site that lived outside of our website, and it was specifically designed for new members. So a new member could go there, and it could be just basically a hub of all the questions that they would ask when they first joined. And since then, I've taught a lot of classes on onboarding and really getting those, overall retention rates up. And I've seen so many clubs implement the microsite and the virtual new member orientation, and we've really seen so much success across the country.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think onboarding members is something that is so important in the sales process. I still look at it as part of the sales process, because if you just sign someone up, kick their file off, and then hope they have a great experience, like you're setting yourself up for failure. Number one, as we all know, who's the best source of referrals? New members, right? Because they have new networks that they're bringing in. And so if you're not putting your best foot forward on an onboarding process, you're not taking advantage of the potential referrals that you're going to get. But even more importantly is integrating them within the club and making sure that they have that great experience and start to connect with people, which we know that paired with some other things is a direct correlation to attrition rates, right? So that's awesome. Why do you think that it's better virtually? Like, why do you think you're getting a better response? Is it just easier? It's easy for them to fit within their schedules?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at a lot of these clubs, these are members, it could potentially be their first or their second home. And so a lot of them are traveling or they're at another home at a different place and time. But I think that if you kind of host one once a month, you set up those dates for the entire year. You let members know that, these are all the dates that this is going to take place, and they can just jump on for 30 minutes and get all of the energy. And I think the other thing is the excitement. You're doing it with a group. I make sure that everybody introduces themselves and says what their interests are, so that they're connecting. But I think it's just easy. I mean, I have had some people, unfortunately, that were driving in their car with their phones up, and they were just, listening and participating to the information. It's just easy.
Yeah, that's cool. So prior to that, you were doing like events, like an onboarding event with a bunch of different people. Go ahead.
Yeah, the presentation, what we found, the information isn't necessarily exciting, but it is very important. And so we just found that lots of times people wouldn't want to take the time to come to a separate event that was just informational.
Yeah. I can say as a member of a club, I wasn't real pumped about a new member orientation at all. And they didn't really have like that great of a process, which was kind of nice. We just got information and then we're kicked in there. But one of the better ones that I have seen was they would do these quarterly. One thing I will say is this club does quarterly new member mixers, which are great. But they did a quarterly new member orientation, and they created like a really cool event. And what they would do is they would have all the department heads come to the event, and they would highlight like for instance, the pros, the golf pros would have like a hitting net there, and they would give little quick lessons. The food and beverage had like a interactive culinary station, right? And they would introduce themselves. They would get to make whatever it is. So that type of stuff, right? And so it was this super interactive thing. They got to meet other members, meet the department heads, and it actually drove more revenue for the club too, because when they were there, the pros would book out lessons for them, right? Things like that. So that was one of the better ones I've seen. Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, nice. See, we just give a bunch of tidbits here.
What I'm starting to hear across the industry is, I think even more to make it convenient for someone, is clubs are putting together some evergreen videos on the key onboarding processes that are needed that aren't going to change very much, so that video,
Right.
whatever cost you want to put into it, is going to last for, hopefully multiple years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those kind of touches shouldn't go away, like either the group exercises or the individual get-togethers, but I'm seeing more and more clubs trying to do that, just so that you can send it to them right as the
it's easy.
membership hits.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that leads into, as well, a discussion on how important it is to visually have your club represented in the best way possible, right? Like, we go into so many clubs, and a lot of times clubs are bringing us in because they need help on all of these aspects, right? So we're seeing like some of the worst, but you're looking at pictures where they're just there's no thought to it, and that paired with that they're very old, right? And so you look at that online, you look at that on your membership brochure, you look at that on your onboarding docs, and it just doesn't give you a sense of pride of what the actual value of the club is.
Yeah,
right?
It's not a compelling story.
Yeah, and these are clubs where they're like very nice. They're high-end $50,000 plus clubs. Right, and it's just like, oh, what are you doing? And I know, Melissa, you believe in that because I've seen some of the stuff that you put out on your club. Rick, I know you believe in it too. Talk about that, how that has helped branding of your club, and what has that meant for your club?
Well, I've seen what you're doing, and I love what you're doing.
What Kyle's doing.
Drone photography, it looks absolutely amazing, but I think the overall digital experience at the club is so important, and that goes from when you are a prospective member all the way down to the end user as a member. One of the things that we implemented, talking about the digital experience, was we do a live chat on the website.
Oh, nice.
And if you hop onto the website, I'm right there. A box pops up with my picture. How can I help you?
Does that just go to your phone? Like, is it a text? Yeah.
It goes right to my phone.
How often do you get that?
Oh my gosh, I at least get it on the daily, at least once per day. And I have even sold memberships through the live chat.
I'm sure.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Has it led to any conversions for you?
Yeah. I mean,
nice.
just the fact that you have to think at that moment, that prospect is ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
They are in your club. It goes back to one of your stats that I was reading where the clubs reached out within 2 hours.
Yeah.
Well, 2 hours were gone, right?
Yeah, you want to do it within minutes, ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's been so helpful. And it's really just overall, they're like, wow. People will say, oh my God, we're really there.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I used to get that all the time. And I'm sure you did too, because we've talked about it. You probably did too, where we would make it a point, like we mandate that they have to call within X amount of times. And again, that's why they get the text message alert. They can communicate through that. And it's like, same thing. I would get people all the time be like, oh my gosh, that was so quick, and it felt like they really, really appreciated that. And like you said, they're hot at that moment.
Well, let's even look at it. I mean, hopefully in some perfect scenario, that person just reached out to your club and nobody else.
Yeah. Right.
But in reality, they probably did a few other online inquiries.
Yeah,
and so what's the best way to stand out is to be the first one.
Be the best sales process.
Yep.
You said it on this podcast is, you had people saying, man, you're the only club that reached out. I know there's a lot of our sales directors that have said that multiple times, that they will literally get people because they couldn't even go see other clubs because no one was reaching out. And to me, that's such an easy win, right? And that's such an easy way to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, even if you are not the absolute best, most elite club in the marketplace, right? It's that sales process.
But I think it goes, I'm thinking to part of the training process we have. And when we have people coming in to start training, what I'll oftentimes do is walk them through a sales decision they've made in the past, right? Use it a car, we just did a boat.
Right.
It doesn't matter, right? There's something they need in their life.
Yeah.
There's this process of research and thinking about and being like, man, this would be really great for my life. And it's so far down the road until a salesperson comes in. But almost invariably, the place they purchase the product, regardless of the product, is the place with the best sales process.
Oh yeah, it's like my truck.
Almost every time.
I drove 2 hours away to get this truck because it was the best sales process.
The product's the same, the price is the same, but it's how the sales professional interacts with the client, makes them feel welcome, and guides them through the process that seems to carry across kind of all products.
It's so important. It's so important. Awesome. Were you going to say something, Melissa? Okay.
No, I agree.
Okay, here's another good question, I think. In your opinion, what is something that everyone in this industry does but should actually stop doing? Rick, what do you think?
Oh my goodness.
Putting him on the spot.
In the sales process, something that they're doing. One thing I would say, and this ended up being, I believe, number one in my sales tips. Oftentimes, I think salespeople, especially in the private club space, if they're touring somebody around the club, there's so many nice amenities that they're there that they just speak to the benefit of, okay, this is a banquet room. You could have a wedding here. You know, you're just giving the features and the benefits. But people are looking to join a club for the experiences and sort of the emotion of it.
The feeling.
And so I think some of the best sales directors around the private club space are storytellers. And that was my number one tip, is try to become a storyteller. I mean, I can remember being back with my grandfather. When he would tell me a story about his life, I was just so captivated by it. And so if we were going into that room, you could speak about a member event that took place 10 days ago and sort of paint the picture of what happened. So to answer the question directly, I think too many of us take the features and amenities of our clubs and just speak to it in a sort of very generic, bland kind of way of here's what you can do. But if you tell the story and the emotions that come along with it, that's a wonderful tool for a salesperson.
Well said.
That's an incredible part of it. My favorite part of one of the clubs where I sold at was this outdoor terrace, right? And I actually ended up having my wife and I's wedding rehearsal dinner there because it's just so beautiful. There's these sprawling oak trees, you've got lights hanging, you're overlooking the 18th hole. It's like glorious, you know?
Yep.
So I would always take them out there and do that exact same thing as paint the pictures. Like, you know, every Thursday we have member night out here. There's fireplaces going. You've got music. Sometimes we'll have a live band. You've got waiters, waitresses passing hors d'oeuvres. And you just have this beautiful setting with the sun going down and all that. And you put it much more elegantly of, you know, you have to sell to that experience. You have to sell to that feeling. And that is... And again, unless you are trained on that or just have the innate ability to do these things, that's hard to understand that you should do that, right? And unless you're a veteran that knows that, hey, if I sell to the emotional side of this, my rates are going to be so much higher. Clearly, Melissa, you are doing that through your video messaging, through everything that you've spoken about. But can you touch up on that a little bit? Do you agree with that? What are some things that you've done to try to highlight your facility in a emotional type way to where they could then connect and see themselves experiencing that?
I 100% agree for sure. But I'll give you a little secret, because at the end of the day, people could be touring the club anytime. I really try and steer clear of the mornings, because sometimes the club is just quiet. And so I think time of day that you're scheduling the tour, you really want to schedule it when the club is just popping and when there's events happening and people coming in from around the golf and people out on that terrace. But if you can't, schedule it at that time, if you can see this TV behind me, I don't, but this is in my office here. And what I do is I put photos of all of our events and all of the members having the time of their life on this TV in my office. And as the prospective members are sitting there and I'm running over the numbers, they can physically see the good times that everybody is having at the club.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes that salesy, vibe from me being the salesperson. Just they're looking and they're like, oh my God, these people are having the time of their lives,
right.
I tell you, the reason I love Melissa so much, and people who are watching this live will see me writing down a couple things here, Melissa, and one of them wrote down was do the tours during events, because it just naturally is going to allow you to tell that story without having to have them imagine it. But then the second thing I wrote down is I don't like to have ad hoc tours where they just show up and then you're really playing from behind.
Right, you're unprepared.
I mean, I always said to my people, I mean, these are people coming to a private club. If you understood that, why would there be any hesitation with expecting to just walk in and get a tour?
Right.
There should be some initial process, some data finding, and then setting it up again, to Melissa's point, at proper times.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
that's right.
No, I used to do the same thing.
Yeah, we would always try to piggyback off of events and invite prospects to those events so that they could experience that. Right. And like, I remember one time, our club wasn't very young, right? It was an older demographic, but we started to get a wave of younger people coming in. And I remember that was one of the person's objections was like, it seems like it's a little bit of an older club. Do you have young people that, we could connect with? And my response was like, look, I still think you can connect with older people, like people that are older than you. I think that's one of the beauties of a club is you have such a diverse range of different life experiences happening. But yes, we do have younger people. Why don't you come out for dinner on Thursday? I'll invite some of our other younger people out here. And so I'm literally calling all the young members being like, hey, I need you to come to this dinner. It's a free wine on me. Yeah, I'm like, I got your bottles of wine taken care of. And they did. And sure enough, they ended up connecting, right? And they joined. And now they have like literally lifelong friends, right? Through this process of just connecting. Yeah. And so one of our next questions is kind of tying into this is what is one valuable piece of advice you would give to someone starting their journey in this industry as a membership sales director? That would be my biggest piece is sales can be hard sometimes, right? And unless you are hyper organized, unless you have spent the time training, right? You're just going to have challenges through this. But if you can bring yourself back to the core fundamentals of what you are doing, and that is you are the driving factor to set people up with lifelong relationships, to enjoy all this leisure time and leisure activity in beautiful spaces. And if you can focus on how that helps the members but also helps the staff at clubs, right? Like that would be my biggest thing when I'm behind. I'm like, all right, I got to do it for the pros. I got to do it for the outside cart staff. I got to do it for the food and beverage people because they survive on tips, right? You're driving all of that. And I think when you can get your mindset back to how much you help this community when you're conducting a good sales process, I think that'll, help immensely, so that you can have a long, successful career.
Yeah. No, I think that perspective was always helpful for me being in a club because it's like a very tangible change. Like you're there for a couple months, a couple years, you see more people in the hallways, more vibrancy, more people enjoying the golf course. And I think for me, it's if that was a question, it's relationships and connection and helping people connect to the community they want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep hearing from all of us. It's like, it's relationships and connections, and you as a professional, like just guiding. You're helping people find that in their life. And I think a country club can be a really wonderful spot for that for most people.
Yeah, no doubt. So one question I have for you guys that's not on this is what is the importance of lead generators in this process? So lead generators, creating your membership sales funnels. What are some tips that you can give the audience on, number one, how important is that in your process? Obviously, the last few years has been to the point where maybe you didn't have to do so many of these, but historically, right, I always tried to have like in between 12 and 15 lead gens going at all time that I was managing. What did you guys do? What do you see in the industry? What are some of the best ways that people can create these funnels and create these marketing campaigns?
Oh, wow. So I say that because I was at clubs between the 2007, 2014 when it was the complete opposite.
Very different
of where we're at today. And
great perspective.
Yeah. For me, member referrals are always going to be your hottest leads.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about what piece of valuable advice. Again, one of my most valuable pieces would be to spend as much time as a sales director with the members of your club as you do the prospects. And I did that by setting pretty much the afternoons,
Play golf,
to go out and do those kind of things, meet the people.
lose
Especially,
a few bets.
Yeah, that didn't happen. But,
That's true. I do know that.
Yeah, because the only other things that I really had at that time was like new home buyer lists. I mean, which
are good.
They're
They can be
okay, but if golf is the main driver at your club, 12% of general public play the game of golf, so you're taking that list already down 1/10 to it and everything. So I mean, members were so important to me. I mean, Chamber of Commerce, it is very difficult in the private club space to have a lot of lead gen. So I'd love to hear from both of you, like, what other things did you have going?
Sure. Melissa, I'll kick it to you and then I'll wrap it up.
All right. So one thing that has been really successful is gated content on the website. And we're able to generate and capture the leads through these gated content pieces. And for example, everybody wants to dive into your club calendar and see, events that you're having. But placing that on the website and making them share their information in order to gain that piece, we're really seeing such a high conversion of those folks that are coming in that way, because they're willing to share their information just to get your club calendar. They're probably interested in your club. So we've implemented a couple of spots on our website that are gated content pieces, and the conversion rates have been really high.
Nice. And how would people go about creating a gated content? Because unless you know kind of back-end web development, is there like a software that you use to create this, or is this just something that's on your website that you can easily password protect?
So we at the club use Members First. So they have created my program for me. But I think it's as simple as, creating some sort of PDF document, obviously, that would be behind the gates. And then I think that you can
share it then once they fill it out.
Yeah, it would be like a dedicated landing page. And you could embed that into the website, and then once they filled it out, it would be an automatic download.
Nice. I'm sure Kyle has some insight on that, but he does not have a microphone. So
We got the thumbs up.
Yeah, he's saying thumbs up. That is how you do it. So nice. That's great. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. For me, obviously, member referrals was a great thing. Realtor referral programs are always really, really good for me. It's kind of a different way to get in front of the new home buyers, right? And the way I always looked at it was the realtors, especially for people that are moving to the area, these are like the trusted advisors to people moving to the area. They're in contact with them a ton, right? So they've gained their trust. They're already looking for recommendations of lifestyle things in that community. So we always, every club we go into, we create a really, really dynamic realtor rewards program where it incentivizes the realtors to bring prospects to the club. It's a point-based system, right? So, and realtors innately are pretty competitive, right? So we've created a contest, and basically they get rewards at the club. There's a grand prize at the end of it, which is usually pretty extravagant. We host special events throughout the year for realtors. And that was always one that I saw a ton of very, very qualified leads come through, right? You obviously have your online inquiries, which are big, which kind of kick into the gated content. You have your member referral programs, which are huge. And then realtor referral programs are really big for me. There's also a ton of other little things, right? We did some print. Surprisingly, dependent upon what demographic you're going after, like newspaper can actually be really good. If you're in an older demographic, direct mailers can be really good. We would do welcome packets to neighboring communities. We would host community days.
That was big. I loved throwing events.
He can throw a crazy event. You want to dive into that a little bit?
It was always fun. I think, Melissa, you were kind of touching on
He's a party
planner. Yeah, Melissa, you were touching on in terms of getting people out there and connecting and having that sense of shared experience. And I just love partnering with people in the community, business owners, or people who dealt with the similar demographic to like partner with them and just have a really fun event at the club that showcased not only the community that you'll get to be a part of, but the amenities that can host and facilitate these connections. So pool parties, golf course. I partnered with like a local high-end car dealership one time and brought other like high-end cars out, and they brought their clientele and vice versa. So for me, that was always both fun to do, a way to get out in the community and just share the word about your club, make connections both professionally and then personally, and then have just these really, really fun events that got people excited and could see the value of the club.
Yeah, it's getting qualified buyers to the club and then putting them through a sales process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love it, man. So many golden tidbits here.
Brian, if you would allow me,
Yes,
I
I
am very proud of this product that NBC Sports brings to private clubs.
Let's hear it.
We own golfnow.com, which is by far the number one online golfer marketplace in the world. And what we did in March of 2020, which you guys probably know what happened in March of 2020, we launched a private club section to Golf Now, because obviously private clubs are not looking to put up online public tee times. But we knew that those golfers that are going to all of our sites are people who are used to paying and playing golf. Yeah. And probably are used to longer rounds than they would prefer. So we created a private section. We called a program called Marketplace Leads. Okay. And so what it does for a very nominal amount, it allows a club to have a lead form up. They can put their page of their private club onto golfnow.com, and it clearly states that you are private. And they're not going to see any tee time inventory, but they're going to see a lead gen form that would go to a Melissa Hansen. It would say, am I interested in tee times? So we give them the ability to tell Melissa, no, I'm not interested in membership. I'm just hoping to play your club.
I like that.
She would obviously put that in a separate bucket in the CRM.
Because that is one of the biggest complaints, right, from Golf Now, right? Just objectively speaking, is sometimes there's this notion in the industry that it can devalue a private club, right? If you're getting these public play happening, right, they can access it for $50-$60. Why would they join, right? So I love that for private clubs, because then that kind of takes that away, right? It gives you more ammo to work with and sets the club up for 100%. Success.
Yeah. And so again, they self-qualify themselves. So Melissa would get one that would say, I am interested in membership. And can you imagine just the power of that? If somebody who's used to playing 5-hour rounds and paying for it is now telling Melissa that, hey, I'm interested in membership at Old Cypress.
Sure.
So,
nice.
Yeah, that's a wonderful program.
So how would people get into that? Would they contact you?
Yeah,
what
reach out to me. We have a beautiful website for NBC Sports Next, but that's called Marketplace Leads. And it's, I think since March of 2020, we're about at 7,000 leads that were generated.
Okay. Great.
And for 2 years, it was really a not needed product.
Sure.
And so we're excited that things are coming back to reality.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. No, it just speaks to the importance of a diverse range of lead generators. And you're going to have we always tell people, because people always ask us, what's your secret sauce? What are you going to do here that's different than what we've done? So on and so forth. And we're like, we're going to put into place a wide range of lead generators. Now, you're going to have your core fundamental things. You're going to have your member referral programs. You're going to have your realtor referral programs, direct mailers, online pushes, online ad campaigns, all these things. But then it does make sense to try different things in different marketplaces and see what hits. I always say to all of our salespeople, if someone brings an idea to me, hey, I want to do XYZ for a lead gen, I'm always like, try it once, track the data. Another reason 100%. To have good important CRM. And if it's working, pour more money into it, right? If it's not, maybe adjust it, see if you can get some better results. So I think that's one of the, what separates elite membership sales directors and just kind of mediocre who are not producing the results they want are they put people through a very good process. They've been trained well. They're organized with a very high quality CRM system. They know how to close, but they also are great marketers, right? They are great marketers. They get the word out. They stay in front of people, and they're constantly driving people to the community of the golf course. And Melissa, that's why I love watching what you're doing, because honestly, you're one of the best marketers I've ever seen. I'd love to have you as part of our team, but I know you got a great gig there going. I'm very impressed by what you do. Same thing with Rick. I mean, I've followed you for a while, and we've been connected for a while, and seen some of the things you put out there and building CRM for clubs and being a part of NBC Sports. So There's such a wide variety of resources out there for people to get in front of to better themselves. And I got to throw a little plug in there for Capstone.
Yes.
But we have, so you guys know our model, right? We come in historically, we staff our own sales director at clubs. We manage the process, we train them, we use our technology, we put into place all our lead gens, and it produces incredible results, right? We also have a remote a sales center where basically we're doing the entire process remotely. So if it's a club that maybe has a slightly smaller budget or maybe is in the middle of nowhere where it's going to be hard to keep a staff member there historically, this might be a good option. We now have marketing services, drone video services, and the piece that I'm very, very excited to get out there is what we are calling Drive. So it is Capstone Hospitality's comprehensive sales training and management software. Right. So one of our biggest objections that we have when we go into clubs is they will say, candidly speaking, we really like our person. They've been here for 15 years. They're so integrated with the club. You know, can you train our person and can they operate in your systems? And historically, they've always been built out for internal facing, right? Like they're built out for us to utilize. But we've spent the last 2 years building this program out. We've spent way too much money building this out. But now we are getting ready to release this product where people and membership directors and boards and general managers will have full access to training. They'll have the exact same training system that we put our internal staff through. They will have full access to our CRM system that's been custom built out. And it's incredible. You have meeting tools, you have automatic notifications, you can set up workflows, you can set up all these different things in there. And we train that person how to use it. And then one of the things that I like the best is you have benchmarking services too. So like if you are part of this, you're not only going to see what Capstone sales directors are doing, how many calls they're making, their lead to close ratios, everything. You're going to be able to see every club and every person that is on this platform to where you can say, man, my club is, you know, right in the heart of the city. Our initiation fee is $50,000. My budget is, you know, $1.4 million this year. I know that based off of this data, I need to make 75 calls a day or whatever it is, tracking on the benchmarking. How many lead gens do I need to put into place? How many leads should I be getting from each thing? So it's such a powerful tool, and it's one of the big reasons why we are so successful. And so I've debated whether or not we want to do this, but again, our goal in this industry is to elevate the industry, to elevate the sales process. And this product, I believe, is going to do that. Part of it, too, is you get data analytics from our executive team, so we make recommendations. We're also going to host live webinars. And I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but I'd love to have you guys host some of these live webinars if it fits in with your schedule. And, you know, again, we all share similar beliefs. We all share similar goals. Melissa has some training, some masterclass pieces out there that I've looked at, Kyle has looked at, and they're fantastic. Maybe there's some opportunity to partner on some of these things as well.
Definitely have the same goals.
Yeah. So, well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys spending some time. We are going to put up a link. We'll put up a link to all of our different various sites, Melissa's, the NBC, and then we'll put up a link for a landing page of, again, what we are calling Drive, our comprehensive sales training and management software. For the first 100 people that sign up for it, they're going to get a special discount. They're also going to get a nice Capstone box of goodies. So if you're interested, you're looking at that, Melissa? Not bad, huh?
I just have a question. So can anyone sign up for Drive, or do they have to be a client of yours? Now
anyone can sign up. So historically, it was just internal facing. We used it, but now anybody could sign up. So if it was valuable to you, you could sign up for it, or maybe some colleagues, you know, in that industry that you know could utilize some help. You're obviously hyper organized. You probably don't need it, quite frankly. But you know, I know there are a lot of people that could benefit from this program. Yep.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. Let's do it again. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
See you, Melissa.
All right, see y'all.
We're excited to introduce Drive, Capstone Hospitality's comprehensive sales training and management software. Drive is designed to help membership sales directors more effectively and consistently reach sales goals. For the first time ever, you will gain access to the same training information that has helped propel Capstone Hospitality to an industry leader in membership sales. Information covered in this program will include everything from the basic sales process to how to generate leads, strategic planning, and how to leverage your CRM organization and analytics to both track and improve your sales approach. Ultimately, we'll look at effective closing techniques that have been tested and proven across nationwide markets, plus much, much more.